Hello, everybody. Hopefully, everybody's having a wonderful day. I am. Although it's cold, it is way too cold for it to be, March, on the second half of March. Like, somebody needs to do something about this. This is not right. Also, I filled up my gas tank for the first time since the war. I'm not. Jasmine, you passed your real estate exam. What? Oh my goodness. Hopefully you can hear that, Miss Jasmine. I'm pretty sure I shared my sound. Let me make sure I did share my sound, and that means, Miss Jasmine, you get a.
That's a good job, man. Y'all are doing a very good
Well, you
job.
get that too, but you also get a.
Good job, good job. Good
Job,
job,
good
good job.
job.
G-double-O-D-J-O-B.
Good
Good
job,
job,
good
good
job.
job.
Hey, and you get my favorite.
My money don't jiggle jiggle, it folds. I like to see you wiggle wiggle, for sure.
Yes. Yes. I love that for you, Miss Jasmine. Loving it. Congratulations. I'm so excited for you. Oh, that is just when you all pass, it just makes me happy. In my Zoom room, everybody's saying congratulations to you, Miss Jasmine. I'm so glad I could be help. Look at here, Miss Caroline talking about it's 90 degrees there. It is 31 degrees here. Why would you? But I just have to be excited for Miss Jasmine. I really do. I really. It's too hot there. Yeah, for it to be March, it is a little hot. That's a little toasty. All right. I'm just so happy for you, Miss Jasmine. But and if there's anything I can do for you, questions you have as you get started, you can always come back, ask me questions. I'm here. I don't mind. All of us are going to be new agents eventually. So you tell me how I can help you in your process. All right, let's get to it. Number 32. A buyer makes an offer on a property. The offer includes a clause stating this offer is contingent upon the buyer's attorney's approval within 5 business days. On day 3, the buyer's attorney disapproves the contract without providing a specific reason. The seller argues that the disapproval must be based on a legitimate legal concern. In most jurisdictions, right? In most jurisdictions, what is our answer? Let's see. A, the seller is correct. The attorney must provide a specific legal reason. Or B, attorney approval contingencies typically give the buyer a broad discretion to cancel, and the attorney need not provide a specific reason. C, the attorney can only disapprove based on title issues, not contract terms. Or D, the contingency is unenforceable because it gives one party unlimited power to cancel. What say you is the answer? What do you think? All right, we got a D. Caroline said D, maybe? Hmm. Hmm. Well, I'm going to tell you all the answer is not C. Nobody said C yet, but it's not C. And this is actually a really good question because it has us talking about contingencies. Remember, a contingency in a real estate contract is where, hey, if such and such happens, then I don't have to buy the house or I don't have to sell you the house, depending on the contingency. It's like you wanted to put an exit clause into this contract, right? And in this case, it says, look, this offer is contingent upon the buyer's approval. I mean, the buyer's attorney's approval. This is why we are so careful to say y'all should not be writing contracts. You should not be writing like language in contracts that are too detailed because we're not attorneys. And yes, you can fill in some things, but there's a lot of things that could go wrong. So just be careful with that. So our answer for this is actually B. Attorney approval contingencies typically give the buyers broad discretion to cancel. An attorney does not need to provide a specific reason. If that seller had wanted, hey, I only want the attorney to make sure, there's a legal issue that they're backing out, or just something really, really bad, then they should have written that into the contingency, but they didn't, so they can't, and now the seller is just bitter. All right, number 32. A property sells for $380,000, okay? The buyer's agent's commission is 2.5% of the sales price. The buyer's agent works under a brokerage that takes a 30% company split. The agent also pays $150 in desk fees and a $500 per transaction fee. What does this buyer's agent net from this transaction? All right, well, let's get to it. We know that there's a $380,000 sales price, and it is this agent is going to get 2.5% of that. So times 25%, and that should be 380 times 25%. I got 9,500. Is that right? Let me make sure. 380 times 25%. Wait, 25%, 0.25%. Okay, there we go. I was like, what? I know that I said 25%, but it's 2.5%. There's a decimal in there, right? And so we got 9,500. Then they take 30% of that. So of this 9,500, right, this is all of it, 30% is going to the brokerage, which means this agent is getting, brokerage is getting 30, the agent's getting 70%. They're getting 70% of this 9,500. So I'm going to do 9,500 times 70%. Now, I could do 9,500 times 30% and subtract it out. I just saved myself a math step by doing it this way. So 9,500 times 70% equals $6,650. But that's not what you're taking home, because you've got to pay from that $6,650. We have to take out the $150 desk fee, right? And you got to take out the what was it, the 500? The $500. So this was the desk fee. This is the transaction fee. So really, this person netted, let's do the math. We got 6,650. Subtract 150, subtract 500. That gives us $6,000. That is $6,000. Our answer is C. Whoop, whoop. There we go. Now, I wanted to rewind because I feel like I owed you all. I needed to go back. Do y'all remember last week we had number 28? And I was like, what is this stupid question? Well, you know what was stupid is me trying to do math I hadn't seen before after a long day of teaching. Because I talked to Chris and I was like, Chris, what's going on? And then I looked at the problem when I wasn't sleepy and it made sense. This is what happens when you try to do stuff. It's a perfect example of why y'all don't try to take your exam and pass it while you're tired. Like, that is a bad idea. So now that I've got some common sense about myself, what we know is that it cost $4,500, right, to run this place a month. We need to have enough rentals so that we're making $45,000 a month. Now, it tells you that every rent is $1,200. So we need to say, okay, well, how many units do we need to rent to get to $45,000? But what was getting me was this sentence right here, this variable cost per occupied unit. And what they're basically saying is For every $1,200 you bring in, well, that particular unit, maybe you pay the electricity for them or something, or the gas bill. You're not really bringing in $1,200. You're bringing in 1,200 less the 200, which is $1,000. That's what you net for each apartment. Well, if you're netting $1,000, what do we have to multiply that to get 45,000? Well, obviously that number is 45, right? You need 45 of those units to make 45,000. But then it says, what is the break-even occupancy rate? Well, if you're renting 45 out of 100, that's 45%. And that was our answer. All I really needed to do was use some common sense and slow down and really think about it. I was getting so caught up with this, I wasn't even thinking straight. So I wanted to come back and say, I still don't think it's going to be on the exam. And I do believe that in the future, I will, when I take an exam, a real exam, I will make sure that I've got plenty of sleep. But I wanted to do that one. Wasn't so bad once I stopped and looked at it. So there you go. All right, let's roll on to number 30. Oh, y'all asked for some more math. I guess we're having at it. All right. A real estate investor is analyzing a property's cash-on-cash return. The property generates $42,000 NOI annually. Annual debt service is $28,000. The investor's total cash investment with the down payment plus the closing cost was $175,000. What is the cash on cash return? All right. Let's see. Do I know how to find the cash on cash return? Let me think. Cash on cash return. See, this is how y'all know. I'm like, I don't know. Cash on cash return. Do. We're comparing cash to cash. So I know that we're probably comparing the income to the cash it took to buy. Right? So we're looking at our income and we're comparing that to the cash it took to buy, right? Cash on cash return. So let's see. Well, if your cash flow is, if it gets $42,000 annually, I'm thinking, well, you don't get, if you're making $42,000 annually and $2,800,000 is debt service. Remember, debt service is basically your P&I payments. You're not getting that $28,000. So I'm going to take $42,000. I'm going to subtract out $28,000 and I'm going to say $14,000. $14,000 is the money coming in, but you got to compare that to what it cost to buy it, which was $175. So now I've got to compare it. I guess what I'm going to say is 14,000 is what percent of 175? So I'm going to do 14,000 divided by 175 because I know cash on cash return, I know the word return means, well, how much did I make when I do something? So, all right, let's see. 14,000 divided by 175. I got 8. So that would be 8%. That's what I'm going to go with. I don't know if I'm right. What do you all think? Ah, that's huge. What do you all think? Do we like 8%? Again, I've never seen this problem before. I mean, I've heard of cash on cash, but it's not one that I do a lot. So I didn't remember a um, a formula off the top of my head, but I just tried to figure it out. Again, you know I can be wrong. Mm, Let's see if I'm right or wrong. Hey, I got it right. I got it right. Hey, I got it right. Do a little dance, do a little dance, do a little dance. I can't believe I got that one right, y'all. Hey, I guess I do. See, when I get some sleep, I can solve things. Good job, me. But do. Good job, me. All right. Let's see if this one's a little easier. Again, I don't think you'll have this one, but I think it's a good concept. Cash on cash return. You're basically saying how much cash am I making a year compared to how much cash it took me to buy the property. So it's kind of like an NOI, similar. Hey, Tricks. All right, number 35. A borrower takes out a $240,000 mortgage at 7% annual interest. The first monthly payment is $1,597. How much of the first payment is applied to the principal? Oh, I'm kind of loving these problems. The more I have to teach people about how this whole interest thing works, the more I love it. So I know that you're going to make a payment. Well, you start with an original balance. And the original balance you owe is $240,000. But then you're going to make a PI payment of $1,597. And some of that is going to be interest for the month. Some of that is going to be principal for the month. And then we'll take that principal and then we will reduce it from the original balance, and that gives us our new balance. This is what the question is asking. Well, kind of. It's wanting to know, what's this principal amount? This would be an amortization schedule. You know, when you borrow money and you're paying, loan, making a fully amortized loan, they'll tell you, hey, every month, this is how much your payment is. This is how much of that payment is going towards principal. This is how much is going towards interest. So let's do it. Choose a different color to do the math. I'm going to take the $240,000 and multiply it by annual 7%, which is going to give me $16,800. If you borrowed $240,000 for one full year and you paid 7% interest, you would owe the bank $16,800. But in this case, you've only borrowed that for 1 month, not a whole year. So I'm not paying you $16,800. Sorry, bank, it's only been a month. So I'm going to take that $16,800 and divide it by 12. Because if this is a year, and this is, there's 12 months in a year, it's going to tell me how much that would be per month. So 16,800 divided by 12, and that's going to give me $1,400. So what I can do is take that $1,597, subtract out $1,400, and that's going to give me $197. Now, even though that's the question or the answer I'm looking for, that means my new balance would be 200. Let's see. I can do this. Helps if I do my math right. 240 subtract $197. It's going to be 239,803. Assuming I did that correctly, 197 is the answer we are looking for right here. And yes. Oh, wait, that's C. Boop. We got it right. Nice. Wait, 197 is the principal. Yes. Yep, you got it. Exactly, Crystal. Nice job. Nice job. Oh, I love that. And yes, Trix, you are right. 14. I know there's a little bit of a delay, but you are on the right path for that $1,400. Very good. Whoop, whoop. Okay. Next problem. A property owner records a deed restriction prohibiting commercial use of the property. 30 years later, the surrounding area has become entirely commercial. The property owner's heir wants to open a small business on the property. A court would most likely apply which doctrine? Okay. Is it A, the restriction automatically expires after 25 years? I don't think there's any what's killing me on this one is this automatically. I'm going to say no to that. All right. B, the restriction is permanent and can never be removed regardless of changed circumstances. Permanent is a strange word, and I happen to know in some cases it can be changed. So I'm not going to say it's permanent, right? The doctrine of latches, which since the heir waited too long to challenge the restriction. Well, I know the doctrine of latches says if you wait too long to sue, like basically to sue somebody, you can't. But in this case, this person isn't trying to sue somebody. They're trying to say, hey, do I really still have to follow that? So I don't think C, but let me think D. The doctrine of changed conditions, potentially rendering the restriction unenforceable because the original purpose of maintaining residential character has been defeated. I like D. I'm gonna have to go. I like the D. I'm gonna have to go with D. Oh, look at y'all. Okay, smarty pants people getting the answer before me. Yep, D is our answer. I mean, the fact that they did record the deed, you know what? If the other surrounding neighborhood had not been all commercial, then there's probably a good chance you're not going to make that go away. But at this point, if everything else is commercial, dude, the courts will probably be like, yeah, okay, that's fine. It's cool. But this is why we hire attorneys. All right. 37. Yeesh. Okay. A residential property is purchased for $320,000. Annual depreciation for the residential improvement, excluding land, is $8,727 using straight line depreciation. What is the IRS recovery period being used, assuming the land is valued at $80,000? All right, I have no clue. I have never had a question about IRS recovery periods before, but let's see. I know if everything is worth 320 and the land is worth 80, now I'm dealing with what is that, $240,000? I tried to do that in my head. Let's see if I can math. Minus 80,000? 240. Hey, I can math. And we're saying that there's depreciation of 8,727. So 8,727 times what number would give me 240,000, which means I'm going to take the 240,000, I'm going to divide it by 8,727. Now, I'm doing this based off of this whole straight line depreciation. We know that straight line depreciation is one of the ways you can depreciate in the cost approach. Sometimes you use the breakdown method, which is going to be, your physical deterioration, your functional obsolescence. Either of those could be, it's not fixable. It's fixable or not curable. That's the word. Curable or non-curable. And then you got economic obsolescence, which is always incurable. But assuming the straight line method is for, works about the same each way, I'm going to take that 240 and divide it by 8,727. And that gives me, helps if I do it right. I don't know. I don't think I did that right because let's see. That can't be right. I must have typed that wrong. 240 divided by 8727 equals 27.5. And here we go. That is an answer. Y'all, I got nothing. If nothing else, I hope when you all do this, you understand if I can pass this test and teach this class, you all can do it because clearly I am no genius. Y'all are like, oh, you have so much stuff in your head. I should hope so after 20 years, but I'm not a genius. If I can do it, you can do it. And this was my best guess, all based off of this idea of straight line depreciation. If I get this right, y'all, I get a cookie. I mean, for reals though, or maybe a brownie. 27.5 years. Guys, we got it right. We got it right. Hey, we got it right. Do a little dance. Oh, and now that I think about it, I have seen that in places that the standard residential is like 27.5. I remember thinking that's a crazy number. And I remember seeing that every so often. So, woo. Oh, Caroline, you are going to pass this test in April. Yes, you are. I'm with you on that one. All right. Look, guys, if I gotten it wrong, so be it. I could come back and look at it another day. It's fine. All right. So, 38. A property is conveyed by a grant deed. 1 year later, a previously unknown heir of the grantor appears claiming ownership of the ownership interest. Which type of deed provides the grantee, with the least protection in this situation? Okay, a property is conveyed by a grant deed. Right. 1 year later, a previously unknown heir of the grantor. So let's say I'm giving a property to Caroline. That makes me the grantor. That makes Caroline the grantee. An unknown heir of mine comes to Caroline and says, hey, this is actually mine. So which deed provides the grantee with the least protection? Well, I think we can just base our answer off of this. And which of these deeds gives us the least protection? A special warranty deed, a quick general warranty deed, a quit claim deed, or a bargain and sale deed? Well, from everything we know, yeah, right, Caroline, I'm going with C. I'm going with C. You said, Crystal, is it D? No, so it's not D because we know you got in the order of the greatest protections, you got your general warranty deed. You've got your special warranty deed. Then you would have your bargain and sale deed. And then you would have your quit claim deed. You know, this is our strongest. This is our 4-star deed because in that one, it's a terrible star. In that one, we're saying, look, if I'm the grantor, I'm saying, look, Caroline, it doesn't matter if I messed it up or somebody previous to me messed it up. If it's messed up, I'll fix it. That's why it's our strongest. And the special warranty deed is obviously 3 stars because it's basically saying, I would be saying to you, look, I'm promising you that I own it and I didn't mess it up. But if somebody else comes and says, yeah, I can't help you with that. If it happened during my ownership, then fine. But if it's not during my ownership, I'm not backing you up. The bargain and sale deed basically says, I'm saying I own it and I have the right to sell it, but that's pretty much it. And in the quit claim deed, I just jumped to 1/2 star. It gets a 1/2 star. There you go. It's a 1/2 star. Because in this one, you don't even really own it. You're basically saying, whatever interest I have, ownership, if it's a lien, I don't know. Whatever interest I have in this property, I quit. I'm not giving you any type of promises or anything. So yes, this would be our one with the least protection. Now, it said it was giving a grant deed, and I know in some states a grant deed is a type of deed, but ignoring that, yeah, I got to go with what's going to give me the least protection. There is no deed below the quitclaim deed that I know of. I'm going to say that with an asterisk that I know of. So, yeah, that's got to be our answer. And yes, boop, there you go. So, there you go. Let's see. What? Okay, they just put all the numbers in all at one place. 39. An appraiser determines that a property's physical deterioration accounts for 15% of the improvement value. Okay. Functional obsolescence represents 8% and external obsolescence is 5%. So I'm just going to write these out. Physical is 15%. Functional is 8%. And external is 5%. If the replacement cost of the new improvement is $320, and the land is valued at $95,000, what would be the estimated property value? Well, I know for something like this, property value is going to be the structure plus the land. But now we need to depreciate this. So my guess is if I take this and add it together, 15 plus 8 plus 5, that's going to be 28%. It looks like it's lost 28% of its value. So I could take that $320,000 and multiply it by 72%. And that's what the structure would be worth. So 320,000 times 72% gives me 230, 400. And then if I add the land back in, because we don't depreciate land, we are going to say 400, 5, 12, 325, 400. I don't know. I think that looks good. Does that look good to y'all? It looks good to me. It looks good to me. All right. Stacy, you said B. Okay, so you got this number, which what I think would be the depreciated value of the structure, but it's asking for the property value. And that property's got to be the land plus the structure. So yeah, I got 230, 400, but I'm thinking that our answer is 325 because it's asking about the whole property value. Oh, you didn't keep on going. That was a tough one. Yeah, it's different, but this is about understanding all the words. I would be happy, like, if you knew when going through this problem what physical deterioration meant, what functional obsolescence meant, what external obsolescence meant, what the replacement cost meant, and the fact that land and the structure is property value. I mean, the math, I don't think you'll get one like this on the test, but if you know those vocab words, then yes, our answer, in fact, for number 39 is C. Just by kind of piecing together some vocab words. I like it. All right, number 40. A buyer discovers after closing that the seller fraudulently concealed a known structural defect. Uh-oh. And the buyer wants to sue. The buyer's deed contains a merger clause stating that all prior agreements merge into the deed. Does the merger clause prevent the buyer's fraud claim? Yes, the merger clause extinguishes all prior claims and representations. No, but only if the buyer files within 30 days of closing. No, merger clauses do not bar claims based on fraud. Or D, yes, but only if the merger clause specifically mentions structural conditions. I mean, my gut said C at first. My gut said C because, I mean, it's fraud. They fraudulently concealed a known structural defect. I can't really think of any reason. If you fraudulently concealed it, that seems like you would be able to sue. Now, if the buyer just didn't bother to look, that would be one thing. So I'm going to go with C. You're going, Marilia, you're going with C? I'm going to go with C too. Caroline, you're saying C. That's my gut. I don't know what your gut's saying. Stacy's saying C. All right, we've decided C is the answer. Let's see if C is the actual answer. Hey, the answer C. We're doing good with this guessing, y'all. We're getting good. All right. Love it. Woo woo. Okay. Yeah. Because I mean, it's fraud. It's all about this idea. You fraudulent. Okay, I can't say that word. It's coming out weird. But that means you purposely did this. You meant to conceal it, so I couldn't find it. I can sue you for that. A property sold for $475,000. The total commission rate is 5.5%. The listing broker receives 55% of the total commission, and the listing agent receives 65% of the broker's portion. What is the listing agent's commission? Okay. We started with 475,000. There's a total 5.5% commission. So 475 times 5.5%. 26,125. All right. You like it? It's a mixture of questions. I do too. You know, Claude did a good job on this one. So I'm going to take this 26,125, and we know the listing broker got 55% of that. So times 55%, that gives me 14,368.75. And then that agent, the broker got 55% of that total, and the agent's getting 65% of that. So I'm going to take the 14,368.75 and multiply it by 65%. And that gives me 9,339 and 60, let's call it 69 cents. 933. Okay, got a different number. All right, where did I mess up? Did I mess up on one of my numbers here? Let's see. Did I mess this up? 9339. 933. I don't see that answer here. Let's see. Let's do this math again. I shouldn't have messed it up. 475 times 5.5% gives me 26,125. Then I'm taking that 26,125, multiplying it by 55%. That gives me the 14,368.75. And I took the 14,368.75, 14,368.75, and multiplying it by 65%. That's $9,339.87. 9,339.60. Okay. I mean, this is the closest answer. I'm gonna go with that one. 56.88. Mm. You came up with 333969. Okay, I feel better about my number. Let me see what it says. It says the correct answer is A. In the explanation, oh, you know what? The explanation says 9339.692. I don't know. The closest answer is A. Well, okay. But then it says, I got nothing. I went with this because I knew I did my math right. Why it would give me a fake answer? I don't know of any. Yeah, I got nothing. We got that one right. Hey, okay. 42. A buyer's agent discovers during a showing that a neighboring property is a registered group home for adults with disabilities. Well, we see that word disabilities. Your spidey senses should be like, wee wee, protected class, protected class. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. I mean, danger that you don't mess this up, not dangerous because they have disabilities. Ain't that clear? Or they are differently abled. The buyer asked the agent to find a home far away from any group homes. Oh, absolutely not. The agent should fire this prior because they're poopy heads. So is our answer A, refer the buyer to a different agent? No, because that other agent shouldn't be telling them to go, choosing properties based on that. B, comply with the request? Absolutely not. I'm not going to, nope. C, explain that disability is a protected class under the Fair Housing Act and that steering away from group homes could constitute discrimination. Yeah, I like this one. Let me check D. Search only in areas without group homes, but not reveal the reason for, no. C it is. I don't even have to look to make sure we're right. I know that one, C. I know that C. Okay. 43. An appraiser determines that a subject property's kitchen is outdated compared to market expectations. The cost to modernize the kitchen would be $40,000, but the value increase from the modernization would only be $28,000. This is an example of external obsolescence, curable functional obsolescence, incurable functional obsolescence, or physical deterioration. Well, I know it's not A because external obsolescence blah, 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 has to do with something outside the home. And physical deterioration would be it's in bad shape, but it says it's outdated. And I know outdated would be our functional obsolescence. And since you are able to fix it, it sounds to me like B, curable, functional, obsolete. Oh, y'all knew that one. I see y'all. Okay. I see y'all. Nice job. 44. A buyer enters into a contract to purchase a property for $375,000. The contract contains an appraisal contingency. The appraisal comes in at $355,000. The buyer requests a price reduction and the seller refuses. What are the buyer's options? Okay, well, they do have an appraisal contingency. A, the buyer can terminate the contract under the appraisal contingency, pay the difference in cash, and proceed at the contract price or attempt to negotiate a compromise. So they can terminate the contract under appraisal contingency, pay the difference in cash, and proceed at the contract price. It doesn't make sense. If you terminated the contract under the appraisal, then why are you going to pay the difference in cash and proceed? I don't understand. Let's go to B. The buyer can force the seller to reduce the price. And no, you can't force the seller to do that. The appraisal automatically voids the contract. Nope, I don't like that automatically. Most appraisal contingencies say, hey, if it doesn't appraise, I don't have to buy the house. If it's just by 1,000 or 2, you might decide you really want the house because you know somebody else will buy it. So D, the buyer must proceed. No, that's not right. It has to be A. And I have to assume they meant the buyer can forego. I don't even that's how you spell forego, or ignore, or choose not to use the appraisal contingency. Yes, they would have to pay the difference in cash at the contract price, or they could attempt to negotiate a compromise. They can terminate. I have to believe that's what they mean. So I'm going with 44. Because there is an appraisal contingency and it didn't appraise. So if it didn't appraise, then you don't have to proceed. I know it's not D. I think it's not D. Let me see. Hey, the answer's A. The answer's A. Hey, the answer's A. You like my rewrite of A? I do too. Right? Really got confused paying difference in cash. So basically, what would happen is, let's say this person was getting 100% loan. And if it had appraised, that loan would have been for 375. But since it only appraised for 355, the loan is going to go to 355. Now you're under contract for 375, so there is a $20,000 difference. If the bank's willing to give you 355 and you want to put that 20 some odd $1,000 down, you can. That's one of the reasons why when you all get into this business, some of the contracts in different states will say, hey, the buyer needs to get a loan, and what type of loan are they trying to get? Like, what are the terms of the loan? Because if I had two offers at the exact same price, one person was paying cash. Okay, let's even take the cash out. One person was getting, borrowing 80%. The other person was borrowing 100%. Well, if they're borrowing 80% and they're putting money down, then this whole appraisal contingency thing shouldn't matter. Like, you could still get the money that you were planning on. So there you go. Does that make more sense, y'all? I want to make sure that makes sense because I know I had to rewrite it. Good, good. I'm glad that made sense. Yay. All right, 45. A buyer makes an offer contingent. Okay, now y'all, we've done a lot of contingent problems right now. Are we feeling how contingencies work? I'm hoping so. Makes an offer contingent on obtaining a conventional loan at prevailing market rates. The buyer is approved for a loan at 7.25% when market rates for similar loans range for 7% to 7.5%. The buyer attempts to cancel, claiming the rate is too high. This cancellation attempt is most likely, you want prevailing market rates, and if most market rates are 7 to 7.5 and you got 7.25%, it seems to me that you would not be able to back out. Let's see. Valid because financing contingencies always allow buyer cancellation. No. Valid because the buyer has a subjective discretion over what rate is acceptable. No. Valid because the buyer specified prevailing rate market rates, meaning the lowest rate available. That's not what that means. It means, okay, a basic, what is the general rate that you see going on? So it has to be D, invalid. And let's check. We is on a roll today, y'all. D, 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 D. Who let the dogs out? 46. A seller executes a general warranty deed to the buyer. Which covenant promises that the grantor will defend the grantee's title against all lawful claims? Which covenant promises that the grantor will defend the grantee's title against all lawful claims? Is it the covenant of warranty forever, the covenant of season, the covenant against encumbrances, or the covenant of quiet enjoyment? Okay, 46. What you thinking? 46. All right, Crystal says A. And Crystal, you are correct. Remember, the covenant of season means that the seller actually owns it and has the right to give it away. The covenant against encumbrances means no new encumbrances. And the covenant of quiet enjoyment is basically saying, look, no one's going to come make claims. But if they do, it doesn't matter when the period is they're saying they made a claim for, the warranty forever. There you go. 47. A borrower is shopping for a mortgage and receives loan estimates from 3 different lenders on the same day. Under TRID rules, what is the primary purpose of the loan estimate? A, to replace the need for an appraisal. B, to serve as a binding commitment from the lender. C, to lock in the interest rate for 30 days. Or D, to provide a standardized form that allows borrowers to compare loan costs and terms across lenders before committing. What you thinking for 47? All right, we got a D, we got a C. Anybody else got a thought? Marily says D. And you know what? Our answer is D. The TRID, remember, that's Truth in Lending, RESPA, Integrated Disclosure. The loan estimate, which has to be received 3 days from applying, basically says, here's what I think the cost of your loan will be. This is what we think your loan is going to look like. So yes, it is D. Locking in an interest rate is just a payment. You can lock it in with a payment to the bank and they say, hey, we don't care what happens in the next, let's say, 30 days. Your rate's going to stay right where it is. All right. 48. A property owner discovers that their property is worth significantly more than what they are paying in property taxes because the county's assessed value is far below market value. The owner does not want a reassessment. Under typical assessment practices, A, the county typically reassesses upon a triggering event such as a sale, major renovation, or periodic reassessment cycle rather than requiring owner self-reporting. Yeah, I like that. The government doesn't trust us just as much as I don't trust the government. No offense, government, but y'all been doing some shady stuff lately. And by lately, I mean for the last 400 years. Okay. 300 years? Let's see. Yeah, the last 300 years. So, I like A. The county must reassess every property every year. No, I mean, everybody's different, and this is a national exam. The property will never be reassessed unless the owner requests it. Absolutely not. You know your taxes go up. Or the owner must proactively report the market value to the county assessor. I mean, I'm pretty sure in most places you do have to tell them if you did a major renovation. So I think A is my better answer. D's not necessarily wrong, but I feel like 48 is A. And it is. Woo, woo. Love it. Okay. 49. A commercial landlord and tenant enter into a lease that does not address the tenant's right to sublease. The tenant wants to sublease half the space. Which statement is most accurate? A, the tenant cannot sublease without the landlord's written consent under any circumstances. B, subleasing without express permission always constitutes breach of the lease. C, the tenant may sublease freely since the lease does not prohibit it. Or D, in the absence of a lease restriction, the tenant generally has the right to sublease, although the original tenant remains liable under the master lease. There's that time that sometimes teachers tell you go with the longest answer. And in this instance, I like the longest answer. Right? I didn't like A. I didn't like B. And that led me to say, well, which do I prefer? D or C or D? And D is just more accurate. It's not that you're always going to be granted. Generally, yeah, unless it was addressed in the lease, you can sublet it. And even if you do sublet it, addressed in the lease or not, tenant, you're still going to have some responsibility. Again, testing our knowledge of vocab. This is why I like this particular practice exam so far, is because you got to know what a sublet is or sublease is, and then they're making you apply it in scenarios. This is why we learn this stuff. Okay? So 49, our answer is D. All right, 50. A dual agent, disclosed and with informed consent from both parties, is negotiating a transaction. The buyer tells the dual agent the maximum price they are willing to pay. Can the dual agent share this information with the seller? A, no. Even in disclosed dual agency, the agent must maintain confidentiality of each party's negotiating position and must not disclose information that would be a disadvantage, that would disadvantage the other party. I like A. B, yes, but only if the buyer provides written permission. C, yes, because the agent represents both parties equally. Well, no. Or D, no, because the seller's interests always take priority. No. So their answer, no, because you got to maintain confidentiality, or yes, but only if the buyer provides written permission. I think our answer is going to be here, A. Because you're a dual agent, you cannot. I mean, even if the buyer provides written permission, that would freak out your seller and go, well, does that mean you could possibly be telling the buyer stuff about me? Did I write something down? So that one's A. All right. 51. A buyer submits an offer on Monday at 2 p.m. with an acceptance deadline of Wednesday at 5 p.m. On Tuesday at 10 a.m., the buyer calls the seller's agent and says, I withdraw my offer. Okay, so the buyer called the seller's agent and says, I withdraw my offer. At 3 p.m. Tuesday, the seller signs the acceptance. Is there a binding contract? I mean, I don't think so, because this person withdrew their offer before. But let's see. No, because the buyer effectively revoked the offer before acceptance. I like that one. B, no, but only if the buyer's agent communicated the withdrawal to the seller's agent in writing. No, it doesn't have to be in writing. C, yes, because the revocation is, nope, revocations don't have to be in writing. Or yes, because the seller accepted before the debt. Nope. Just because you said, hey, it's going to be open until Wednesday at 5 p.m. doesn't mean you have to keep it that way. Buyer, if you change your mind, as long as you haven't been told that the seller accepts your offer, then you have every right to back out. Whew. All right, we went through about 25 questions today. That's not too bad. Well, about 20 questions today. Not too bad. Not too bad, people. Not too shabby. Right? Not too shabby. Hopefully this is helping you. Hopefully you all are picking up some things. And I gotta say, guys, again, I did this with Claude. I made this list with Claude AI, and I asked for a hard exam. So if you've been getting these right, great. If you haven't been getting them all right, that's okay, because I asked for a really hard exam, and this has gone over some great vocab. So, you all will see me on Sunday at 5 p.m. Bring your questions, bring your friends. Oh, and there should be a video going out tonight on my YouTube channel. It should be good. It's dramatic, as all my videos are. So dramatic. So I'm going to go finish that up. I need to do a YouTube thumbnail. Other than that, that's it, guys.
Thank you,
You're
Candace.
so very welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Everybody have a good rest of your week.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.